Right, morning fellas, welcome back to another Villa on Tour video. Just a final one before the big one against West Ham tomorrow. I'm joined by Simon. Simon, mate, how are we?
Not too bad, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad. A little bit nervous, but that's to be expected. Basically, we just have I'm going to call it a podcast sort of thing. We're just going to have a chat about tomorrow, how we think it's going to go, what we think's going to happen, that sort of thing. So it's just a bit of a waffly video. Sit down, have a cup of tea, enjoy us talking about Villa basically before the nerves kick in tomorrow. Just a quick plug though before we carry on. Luke Clothing used the code MAX20 for 20% off. Me and Simon are both wearing Luke Clothing because why not? So use MAX20 for 20% off. You know what to do. But without further ado, let's talk about some Villa. So, West Ham away tomorrow. Just initial thoughts, Simon. How are you feeling?
Nervous. Very, very nervous. Tough game. I mean, like, you take everything out of the equation, really, with the relegation thing. It's a tough game anyway because, you know, West Ham aren't a bad side and they've been in a bit of a false position all year, really. But with the added pressure of the relegation fight, then it's horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is a bonus that West Ham are sort of out of it. I guess they got a point at Old Trafford, didn't they, a couple of days ago? So that's a bonus. I think I'd much rather play them if they have nothing to play for rather than if they were, you know... I mean, if they lost to Man United, they would have had the slightest chance of going down on goal difference, but realistically, as long as they are literally mathematically safe, that'll do me. So I think they've done the hard work, beating Chelsea, going to Old Trafford and doing well. So will they really be up for this game? I don't really know, but hopefully we can take advantage of that and go up there and get a result. I think if you watch Dean Smith's press conference, he sort of said, look, we're going for the win. We're not going to take note of what anyone else is doing. We're going to go to West Ham and go all out. How do you think we should approach this game? Do you agree with Dean Smith? Shall we go all out and just try and win the game and forget about what everyone else is doing?
Yeah, I think you've just got to get that out of your head and just think, look, it's a 90-minute game of football. It's in our own hands, sort of thing. And so, just do what we've been doing since the restart. Really, you've got to just play your own game. Try and be tight at the back, which we have been tighter at the back since we've come back. And try and get on the front foot and just try and win the game. And you've got to try and get that out of your head. Whatever's happening at Goodison Park and whatever happened at the Emirates Stadium, you've just got to get out of your head for those 90 minutes. And I think throughout the game, there probably will be a few twists and turns. And I think Dean Smith said in his press conference yesterday that, you know, the last 15 minutes might throw a few different spanners into the works, depending on how the results are going elsewhere. And that might change our tactics a little bit. But I think overall, I think he's got it spot on. We've just got to try and focus on ourselves and just try and go for the 3 points, because if we get the 3 points, then everyone's out of the equation anyway, and so we've done our job. So yeah, go for the win, and we're sorted.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So I'm just looking at the table here. I'll put it on screen. Villa on 34, Watford on 34, Bournemouth on 31. Luckily, Villa's goal difference is one better than both of those sides. So even the goal difference is really tight. So if somehow two of the teams are on the same goal difference at the end of play tomorrow, we have scored most goals, so that will help us a little bit. But it's so close in terms of goal difference and points as well with us on Watford, so it's going to be close. But let's talk about the other teams then. I was on, I did a little bit for 5 Live yesterday, and I was speaking to a Watford and Bournemouth fan. And they weren't confident at all. I think the Watford fan was basically saying they're inconsistent the whole season and they've literally gone off the rails since they sacked Nigel Pearson. The Bournemouth fan as well was saying that they haven't had any good form since 2018 or something ridiculous. So listening to them, they weren't confident at all, which gives me a little bit of hope. But yeah, Watford away at the Emirates. Arsenal coming off a defeat to Aston Villa. Surely Mikel Arteta won't let, you know, Arsenal perform as badly as they did for 2 games in a row. So surely you'd think, even with the FA Cup on the horizon, final for them, you'd think there'd be a reaction surely against Watford and hopefully they can get the win against them.
Yeah, you can't, I think as you just said, you can't see Arsenal losing 2 games in a week to relegation threatened sides before an FA Cup final. Surely those players are playing for their places in that FA Cup final team. So I can't see Watford going to Arsenal and pulling off a victory. I can't, especially in the absolute mire that Watford have been in. As you say, they've been in poor form pretty much the whole season. I mean, Pearson came in and turned it around, and then strangely ended up sacking him sort of last week, which was a bit of a bizarre one. But I mean, watching Watford on Tuesday night, it was a poor performance. I know they play Man City, and Man City are an incredible side, but they didn't put up any sort of fight at all. I don't recall them actually having a chance in the game, and so I think Watford look done, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to say because they're still in it, of course they are, but I think it's a tough game going to Arsenal tomorrow. And like I say, anything can happen, but I wouldn't put my money on Watford at the moment, to be honest.
No, absolutely not. And I think if you heard what Ben Foster said, the goalkeeper for Watford, he said after the Man City game, it was sort of like, they've gone off the rails, their confidence is rock bottom. Whether that's exactly true or he's just playing mind games, I don't know. But yeah, the Nigel Pearson thing was just absolutely bizarre. I think there's something fishy going on there, whether he's had an argument with some of the players or something like that, because I know the Watford owners are a bit mental and they love sacking managers for fun, but you don't sack a manager who's grabbed you out of the relegation zone and done so well with 2 games to go. That's just really weird. But we'll move on to Bournemouth. I think they've got Everton away. They snatched an equaliser at the end of the Southampton game, which got ruled out, and then Southampton went at the other end and scored. So hopefully their confidence will be on the floor. But I think, I was guilty of it at the end of the Arsenal video. I sort of discounted them because they're 3 points behind. But if we lose and Watford lose and Bournemouth win, that's in their hands then. So it is dangerous. I think, they're playing Everton, who don't have anything to play for, which does concern me a little bit. But Everton themselves have just come off a decent result at Sheffield United away. So it's going to be tough. I think Bournemouth, they're more likely to go to Everton and get something than Watford are to go to Arsenal. So I think you've still got to keep an eye on Bournemouth. But do you see them getting anything at Goodison?
I think they're a bit of a strange one, Bournemouth. I think like weeks ago, if you go back 2-3 weeks ago, we thought they were absolutely dead and buried, and they got that point against Spurs when they were unlucky not to win actually, and then obviously they hammered Leicester, which brought them back into it. I mean, 2 fixtures which you didn't expect them to get anything out of, and that's why we sort of thought they were dead and buried. So credit to Bournemouth for pulling themselves back into it. It's a tricky one away at Everton. I think Everton at home are a good side. They haven't lost at Goodison Park under Carlo Ancelotti yet. Obviously, they haven't been great. I mean, they had that poor defeat against Wolves, and then they should have lost to us. But I mean, they clawed themselves back into the game against us. But then they went and got a good win at Sheffield United. So it's a tough one. They've got good players, but they can be inconsistent. And I know they have got injuries at the back, and there's that young lad starting for them at centre half at the moment. But on the flip side of it, Bournemouth, they've also got their injury problems. I think they were saying that there's going to be like a late check on Ake for tomorrow's game, see whether he's going to be fit or not. So Bournemouth got injury problems as well. So I could see that one, in all honesty. I could see that one being a bit of a high-scoring game. I think Bournemouth got literally nothing to lose. They are literally just going to go for all out, aren't they? Because obviously they have to win, and that's all they can do really. Bournemouth tomorrow. So. Oh, it's a tough one. I could see Bournemouth doing something more than Watford tomorrow, and that's why I think that it's so important that we just take matters into our own hands and get the result ourselves. Because versus Bournemouth, we only need a point. If we get a point, then Bournemouth are relegated. And so yeah, it's hard to call, but they could get something Bournemouth. But I think I think to be honest with you, all 3 of us have got really tough matches. I think I wouldn't be that surprised if all 3 of us lose, to be honest. But we will see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Bournemouth as well, there's been a lot of talk with Ake going to Man City, so hopefully a lot of their players' heads will be turned because they've resigned to relegation. I'm not sure, but let's talk about Villa. Finally, what has changed in the last 3 games? Because I said this previously. If lockdown didn't happen and we continued where we left off with that Leicester 4-0 and we kept on playing after that, I think we would have got relegated because we were on such a horrendous run of form at that point and we just couldn't stop conceding goals and we looked so bad. I think if we didn't have lockdown and this whole break in the season, I think we would have got relegated. So I think it came at exactly the right time for Villa. We came back and it still looked a little bit poor against Newcastle, United, Liverpool. We didn't look great really, especially after that Man United game. The table looked really bad, like we were 7 points off it. People calling me negative because I thought that's it, but yeah, it didn't look great at all. But what's changed in the last 3 games? Because we have seen an upturn in form, obviously, and that's how we've got out of it. So what's changed?
I think a lot of it's about confidence, and I think that's been a theme of our season, to be honest with you. I think our team's been so new and fresh, and quite young as well. I think we have sort of suffered from that sort of confidence. And I think we came back after the restart, and we didn't have a bad game against Sheffield United. And I mean, on how the game played out in terms of chances, we probably should have won the game. And I mean, after probably working so hard over the lockdown period, as Dean Smith said, in terms of getting the defence right, the players are probably a little bit disappointed not to come away from that game with 3 points. So I look at that and I just think maybe their confidence was a little bit dented after that again. And then obviously we went into that run of games and we weren't bad. And I think that's the thing, we weren't bad in some of the games, like Newcastle away, we should have won the game. And most of the games, apart from the Chelsea game and the Man United game in the second half, all of the games we've been right in, and we haven't. I think Dean's said it numerous times. We haven't quite got the points total that the performances probably have deserved. And then obviously we had Palace back at Villa Park, and Palace weren't great on the day, and we ended up getting the win. I think it is that little bit of confidence, and then obviously we went to Everton and played well and got a point, and it just sort of drifts on, doesn't it? And I think the players in the moment, when you're watching them, they do look more confident in the last 3 games, and the defence has definitely tightened up. We don't look like scoring many still. That's the only problem. I don't think that's the one thing that hasn't changed. The strikers still don't look like scoring to me. But when you have got Grealish, you've got McGinn, and then you've got a winger in form, well, I'd say in form in terms of scoring goals like Trezeguet, then you've always got a chance. And so I think a lot of it's about confidence, and I think that's how our season's sort of gone in a way. I think that's been my frustration, to be honest with you. It's that I've always thought that we've been good enough to stay up all season, but we haven't quite shown exactly what we've got at times. And I think that's been the most frustrating part. I think before we came back for the Project Restart, I said I'm confident we can stay up with the players we've got. I think we can give more. And I thought that all season. I think, to me, that's been the most frustrating part all year, because if you think back to 5 years ago when we got relegated, we were terrible and you had no hope at all, and it was sort of easy to accept in a way because we were so bad, you had no hope at all. But this season, to me, we've underperformed for large parts of it. I think the players have been better than what they've been showing. So yeah, I do think a lot of it's down to confidence, and unfortunately we seem to have picked some of that up in the last 3 games, but 1 game to go. Let's hope we can carry it on.
Yeah, definitely. I just think there's like a newfound sort of determination and passion there. You saw Freddie Gilbert, punch in the air when he won a goal kick or something against Arsenal, and when Conor Hourihane came off as a substitution, he was geeing up whoever was coming on or whatever. And we haven't seen that this season, so that was really good to see. And I just think you look at the quality of the teams down there, it's not great at all. And I just think if we were a little bit less bad and we could have held on, because the amount of points that we've dropped this season is just embarrassing, really. So even if we just held on for 3 points somewhere, we wouldn't be in this mess, really. So that's the frustrating thing. But yeah, what's been our issue this season as a whole? Because I think it's been a bit weird, because our biggest problem is the fact we're so inconsistent, because we started the season okay, maybe weren't picking up the results that we deserved. You look at Tottenham away, Arsenal away, the main ones that you look at over and over again. Liverpool at home, where we could have held on for 3 minutes more and we would have got a vital 3 points over the eventual champion. So that's the frustrating thing. And then New Year comes and we have a decent result at Burnley, and then 2 of our main players have long-term injuries, and then we sort of plummet. We have the good run in the Carabao Cup, but our Premier League form is just horrendous. I don't think we picked up a point in February. What's been our problem this season? For me, it's just inconsistency.
It is, well, yeah, it is. It's mainly inconsistency, but the reason for the inconsistency, there's quite a few elements to it, I think. Number one, you have to look back at the recruitment last summer, and while that it was a tough job, I don't think we quite got the balance of the team right in terms of, to me, this season we've been struggling in the centre of the park in that defensive midfield position, and though Louise has sort of stepped up since we came back after lockdown, prior to that was always a problematic position, and you could see that by the manager changing between Louise and Nakamba, who ran all year round, to be honest with you. So I think we haven't found that balance. We haven't struck that balance at all, and I think you can go throughout the team. We've struggled to settle on a striker. We've struggled to settle on wingers. We've chopped and changed, obviously, with our goalkeeper situation because of all the injuries. Once again, injuries have been an issue. We've got Heaton, Wesley, McGinn. They've all but missed huge parts of the season. So there's a lot of factors, and I think the Premier League's unforgiving, and if you go on a bad run of form, you lose 2-3 games, it sort of becomes a little bit of a habit, and I think that's what we got ourselves into. And I think when we trudged off the pitch that night at Leicester back in March, well, it looked like we were done. I mean, the players that night were really poor, and I think, as you say, the lockdown came at the right time, but the season's been really inconsistent. There's been a lot of elements to it. Some within our control, some not in our control. The defending's been appalling most of the year. When you look back to the very start of the season, and even against Spurs on the first day, I mean, a tough game, but we gave up something like 26 shots that day away at Spurs. And I mean, if you do that in the Premier League, you will just lose matches effectively, and it has been our issue. And it's been a tough season. It's been a really, really tough season, but I'm just praying that we manage to cling on. I really am.
Although if we do end up staying up tomorrow against West Ham, everything will look really good. Everyone's going to be praising Dean Smith, etc. But even if we do stay up against all the odds, surely there's still going to be questions asked, because I don't think the owners going into this season would have accepted us leaving it to the last day and it being so close. So even if we do stay up, there's going to be questions asked, and there's going to be, is Dean Smith still the right man to take us forward? And invest the money that the owners will put in, because they will invest this summer. I think they've already come out and said that. So what do we change? Because there's been a lot of talk as well against Suso, and he's the problem. But I think there's a bit of both. I think there's a lot of elements that have been at fault for our downfall this season and why we have been so dreadful. But who is to blame?
It's a tough question. I mean, to me, that it's a bit my comments might be a little bit controversial here, but I don't particularly pin it on one person. I know everyone's got the knives out for Suso at the moment, but I do think it was a tough job. We at the final whistle of the playoffs, we had 11 senior players at the club, and so obviously we had to build a squad. We had 140 million to do that, and how do you bring in 11 or 12 sort of Premier League experienced players on that sort of money? You just don't do that. And I think if you spread that cost out on all the players we signed, and we on average spent around about 9 million per player. I mean, when you look at that, I'm not that surprised that we've been in the position we're in. I think at the start of the season I said that if we finish 17th, then that is an achievement, and we've done our job for the season. And it's building blocks. I think I remember last pre-season people were talking about mid-table finishes, and I never thought that was achievable, never. And it is about building blocks, and I think this season was all about staying up in the league, and I think if we can do that, then we've achieved what we set out to do. And then what you do going forward, obviously we don't have to have that massive sort of recruitment going forward. You can then spend that money and you can target it on just 4 or 5 players rather than 11 or 12 sort of thing, so you can bring in better quality. But I don't know. I think the manager's made mistakes, as managers always do, make mistakes. Suso will probably say as well, some of the signings haven't worked, but he's not going to get every single signing right, are they? And I think that's what you even look at. You look at top managers over the years, like Alex Ferguson at Man United, for instance. He made mistakes in the transfer market, and this is how it goes. Transfers never, they're not 100% guaranteed to work, and I think there's been a lot of criticism in the last few weeks, and I get it. We've been poor, and I get why the manager and Suso come under criticism. But to me, it's a collective, and I think there's been a lot of speculation about Suso going in the summer. If we stay up, I'm not convinced he will, because we've got 6-7 weeks till the start of the new season. I don't know. It feels like you're ripping up the rule book again and starting again, and to me, I'm not too sure that would stand us in very good stead. So to me, what we'd need to change, we need to bring in more quality. But like I say, we would have that opportunity to do that, and all these players that we have signed, they've got another, got a year in the Premier League under the belt. Like a Douglas Luiz sort of thing, who started to play well. You'd hope that they sort of evolve going forward, but it's a tough one. I don't think there's any point in us sitting here and going absolute mad, slagging off either Suso or the manager. Really, I just think it's a collective, and there has been mistakes, but there has been some good things as well. So yeah, I'm a bit 50-50 on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think if people watch the channel a lot, they'll know that I'm a big advocate of Dean Smith and I love what he's doing. But I don't think he's blame free. Like, I'm not going to go out here and just say that it's not his fault at all. It's his fault, whoever. But everyone's made mistakes this season. But hopefully, and it's a big if we stay up, it'll be slightly easier next year. Like you said, the players that have had an extra year in the Premier League under their belts, they would have been able to gel as a group. Which would be much better, I suppose, and they'll know what the league involves, they know how to play it, I guess. And like you said, we just need to add that little bit of quality, maybe 4 or 5 players that actually do have Premier League quality, because I think that has been our downfall. We didn't get enough players that have Premier League experience. I think Tom Heaton was probably the only one, and he was a success before he had that injury. So we need more Premier League experience. We need players that have been there and done that, and just that overall quality, really. Right, then on to the bit that everyone wants to hear. What do we think is actually going to happen tomorrow? We'll start with the Watford and Bournemouth results. So for me, I can't see Watford going to Arsenal and getting anything, really. I'm going to say 2-0 Arsenal. And then I do fancy Bournemouth to get something, but I don't think it'll be enough. I'm going to say 1-1 against Everton, but I can see them getting the win. But I think Villa will get a point at West Ham. I think West Ham are a good side. They've been good in recent weeks, and I think it'll be 1-1 there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we nicked a 1-0 win or anything like that, because I think the players will still be bang up for it and they'll know what's at stake. So I think we'll stay up by a point. It's going to be close. It's going to be nervy. Simon, are we going to stay up?
Yeah, I think we will. I think Watford will go to Arsenal. I think they will lose. I'd say it would be a 2-1 to Arsenal tomorrow. Bournemouth, I've got a feeling Bournemouth might go to Everton and win tomorrow. I could see them winning at Everton tomorrow, and so I'd go with like a, I don't know, maybe a 2 or 3-1. But then I think Villa, I don't think Villa will lose. I think we'll grab a point, and that point will be enough to keep us up and send Bournemouth down. That's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm absolutely praying for. It's a tough one to call, and tomorrow afternoon is going to be absolutely horrendous, isn't it? Trying to keep up to date with all these scores, and it's not going to be pleasant, but we are where we are. And I think a few weeks ago I said if we can go into the final day with a chance of staying up, then I'll take it, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, definitely. If you said 5 or 6 games ago, like, you're going into the last day out the relegation zone and it's in your hands, I think 100% you would have taken it. But like you said, it's going to be a nervy one. Come 6 o'clock tomorrow, we could be in absolute despair, or it just could be incredible. We will see. But thank you very much for watching. If you haven't enjoyed the video, please do subscribe. Tomorrow's video will either be class or just horrendous, so keep an eye out for that one. Subscribe if you are new. Follow me and Simon on Twitter and Instagram, you know the drill, links in the description. Max 20 for some loot clothing. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.